Welcome! So this is a video that I've been really excited to do ever since I had the idea for it a couple of months or so ago. And I'm also absolutely delighted to have a co-host for the very first time. Great friend of mine. Obviously, most of my subscribers will know him as one of the bright lights and happy faces of the Funko Pop community. But we're not talking about Funko Pops today. I would like you to welcome my co-host for today, Lee Teasdale, aka the Pop Tart. Hi, mate. How you doing?
Thank you for having me on, Jimmy. I'm really excited about doing this, mate. Honestly, I've put you off so many times because of lockdown and childcare, but honestly, I'm super excited to do this. So thank you for getting me on doing this, mate. I'm really excited.
Well, I am as well. I've been so looking forward to doing this video for such a long time, mate. Just for those who don't know what me and Tarty are doing today, nothing to do with Funko Pops or anything else that you may normally see on my channel. We're talking about our favourite comedy, certainly my favourite US comedy, and I think I'm probably not being impolite in assuming that it's yours as well, Lee. The US Office, of course. I had this idea probably not long after, back when I saw, and I don't know if you saw it as well, Lee, the top 10 Star Wars video that Nick Terrell and the Reptile Man did. And even for me, as someone who wasn't much of a Star Wars fan, I watched that and just really enjoyed seeing two friends sit down and shoot the proverbial about a movie franchise, a movie series that they loved. And I've been wanting to do something Office related. I don't know, I originally thought of top 10 episodes or top 10 characters or something, and then I thought, well, why don't I do it how sort of Nick and Dave did and get someone on, a fellow super fan. And I think if there's someone out there who's as big a fan of The Office as me, it's you, mate. Can you tell me and tell my viewers just what it is about The Office that you like so much?
How do we... So, I mean, I love the UK Office. I should say that straight away. I adored that. I thought it was fantastic. And I wanted more. So when the US Office came out, I was kind of skeptical, or how's it going to go? But a few episodes in, once it started finding its own feet, I just fell in love with it. I fell in love with the characters, and I hate saying it, but I actually prefer it to the UK version of The Office. And I know that's but just the progression of certain characters as well. They've kind of, obviously it's came in with Jim, Pam, Michael, Dwight, they're your main four, but they brought in additional characters, or even just characters from the side, like Creed, Angela. They've just added, everything they've added to it has just made me enjoy it more and more and more. I still loved it, but I felt it lost its way a little bit when it kind of started to break the people off into different directions. Like when Jim went off to do his own business, I missed the Jim and Dwight dynamic. And then obviously when Michael did leave, as much as it was interesting, Robert California, I thought was just a very strange, kooky kind of character. And it was entertaining, but it didn't feel the same. It didn't feel quite right. Same with when they brought Angelo in. I love Will Ferrell. I know a lot of people, he's very Marmite, but his early comedies, and when I knew he was getting on board, I was really excited about that. And I thought he was good in it, but it always came down to those original characters. From The Office. I will say one person who I thought came into brilliant was Kathy Bates. I thought she was fantastic. Every time she was on, I just thought she played the character really well, and I really enjoyed her. But I fell in. It sounds soppy. I fell in love with the characters.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I'm the same. Yeah.
And I became invested in the characters. I mean, when it comes to, obviously, when we say our top 5, there's one episode, the 5th episode, I went back and forth. And I've gone with the one I've gone with because it made me laugh more. Whereas the other one is more about my investment in the characters. So I mean, I'll go into that obviously but I love it. I mean, I can sit and just put it on and I can just sit and the day can just go by.
It's like comfort TV, isn't it? It's like, I don't know what to do. I'm kind of maybe feeling a bit low or tired or just whatever. Stick The Office on, it's 20 minutes an episode, usually. You can while away a good afternoon or all of an evening, really. I know what you mean about sort of investing in the characters. I love how there was development for kind of these peripheral and minor characters that you sort of saw. I suppose guys like Kelly, Meredith, Kevin, I don't want to call them glorified extras at the start, but they sort of had so little to say and do. You just kind of saw them in the background in kind of season 1 and maybe a little bit of season 2. But how these sort of minor characters develop, I think Kevin Malone is probably a lot of people's favourite now, whereas at the start it was just, oh, they've put like a sort of big guy in to be like the American equivalent of Keith, but he didn't really do it much. And then by the end of it, he was genuinely one of the most joyful and funny characters on the show. I love Kevin, but this isn't a top 5 or top 10 characters, although we will talk about our favourite characters, no doubt, during the course of this. I've, after much deliberation, compiled my top 5 favourite in what I think is probably my order of preference. We're going to go in, what's it, ascending order. Yeah, bottom to top. And Pop-Tart has done the same. So you're going to hear Tarty's top 5, my top 5 will alternate. So Tarty, guests first. Your favourite Office episode of all time, please.
So this is where I deliberated, because it came down to 2, and I'll tell you the one that didn't make the cut. This is like top of the Funko Pop. Plug. I had to get the plug in.
Plug, yeah.
So it was going to potentially between this one and Niagara, the wedding one, because I just thought the wedding was done, the wedding between Jim and Pam, I thought was done so well. It was a good comedy episode, but the way they did the wedding, the way that they had the wedding like at Niagara Falls, where because they knew it was going to become a bit of a farce at their own wedding, and I just thought that was really well put together. But the episode I've gone with is season 6, episode 7, and it's The Lover. This one, it's Dwight. Dwight tickles me so much in this episode. Just the way he goes about stuff. It's also, for me, it's got one of the best put downs of Toby in any episode. And it's done by Jim, where Jim finds out that Michael is dating Pam's mum. And Toby comes in at that point. It's the first time he's seen him after the honeymoon. And Jim just goes wild at him, just get out, Toby. And it puts me in bits. It puts me in genuine, absolute bits. And then obviously this is the episode as well where Dwight brings the mallard into Jim's office to try and listen.
Of course, he's that one, the mallard. Oh, love it.
Obviously, I love the go-between between Jim and Dwight. That has always been my favourite love in The Office.
Yeah.
But it's just, there's a scene as well where Jim obviously knows about the mallard because it's so obvious, and he just starts pumping music through the door, and he just stands at the door. And Dwight doesn't pick up it, and there's Dwight's best moment in that episode, and a lot of my episodes, I always come back to Dwight's reaction to something. I don't even call it the start of that episode where Michael comes out pretending to be a blind guy. And he's got his sunglasses on. And Dwight's reaction is just so childlike and ecstatic. He's so happy and excited. And I touch on Dwight in a lot of my episodes because, we said we'd talk about it throughout, but Dwight is my favourite. I just love him. I absolutely love him.
Yeah.
I think he's an absolute monster of a character. He's got a good heart deep down, but he's just
you had to wait pretty much 9 seasons to really get to it. Although we showed flashes, I would say, early on. I know we're talking about a specific episode, but going back quite a bit earlier, I think this would have been season 2. I do remember the episode where Dwight had a concussion, and sort of in his concussed state, he formed this really kind of affectionate friendship with Pam, and I thought that was it was funny, but it was really nicely done as well. And I like the fact that those sort of, even though Dwight, you could say, to parlay a wrestling term, was sort of feuding with Jim and Pam a lot of the time throughout the years, how by the end of it, the sort of, he really did consider them his 2 best friends. I like Dwight and Pam's friendship. I like Dwight and Jim's, even though a lot of it was them antagonising each other a lot of the time. Yeah. But yeah, The Lover is, that's not one that I particularly consider. There isn't a bad Office episode for me. I couldn't choose one that I hate, because there isn't one.
No, I'm the same. You're going to get in the comments of this video, because I get it anytime I put in The Office. There's the people who hate The Office, and then you ask them if they watched all of The Office, and it's like, no. And it's
yeah. I didn't like season 1, which is like 6 episodes. You can do season 1 in like little over a couple of hours.
Yeah. It'll probably be shorter than this video by the time we're done.
Yeah. but the lover is number 5 for the Tart.
It's all good.
I'm not apologizing to anyone. Michael owes me an apology.
For trying to find happiness in the arms of a lover?
Don't call my mother your lover.
Yes, that's what I'm talking about.
That is not okay, dude.
All right, in my defense.
Disgusting.
That's messed up, man.
Yes, thank you. Welcome to my personal hell.
You have no sense of boundaries,
Shut up,
Michael.
Oscar.
My number 5, and I'm going to be very interested to see if we've got any overlap here and we're picking any of the same in our top 5s. My number 5, my 5th favourite Office episode of all time, is from season 2. It's episode 17, and it's Dwights Speech.
I haven't got that one in mind, but I do love that episode.
That is amazing. Just the way Jim has decided to prank Dwight with these presumably slightly doctored, downloaded speeches of Mussolini that is given to Dwight, because there's going to be people watching this who are like, well, what's going on in this episode? Dwight has won some sort of quite minor, but in his head, massive regional paper salesman award. He's got to go make a speech when he receives his award. And it's interesting for me that Dwight is, in some ways, he comes across as sort of uber confident, but he does have a real fear of public speaking at this point. And you sort of look at Dwight years on and you can't quite believe it. But you do see Dwight kind of become more Dwight over the years. I mean, there's no one quite like him, but I don't know, I suppose it was quite a way of humanising him, I suppose, really. This guy who sort of always thinks he's right has just got a really sort of black and white way of seeing the world. That he has got this kind of human fault, something that he knows he's not very good at. And I like the fact that it was sort of a win for Dwight at the end as well, that even though this speech he's doing is something that has just been given to him by Jim, because Jim thought it'd be funny for him to read out something Benito Mussolini said. But it's a win for Dwight because they're all loving it in the convention centre, aren't they? All banging the fists and clapping along and chanting along with him. And it's like, when you start to love Dwight early doors, I mean, I kind of loved him from day one, really, but it's like, yes, you like the fact Jim's pranked him, but you also love the fact that Dwight's done well. He's conquered his fears of speaking in public, and he's got the audience in the palm of his hands. The opening where they sort of tossing the football around, that's one I always find funny, because they cut to the credits right when Michael's about to throw the football to Pam, and he shouts, Pam, and then it cuts to the opening titles. Funny visual, that's what she said joke, where Dwight's just eating grapes and Michael just comes in and says, oh, that's what she said, even though it wasn't a vocal setup. The subplot, I thought the subplot was fine. It was nothing sort of massively exciting. It was Jim planning his holidays trip that would coincide with Pam's wedding to Roy. Just a funny episode, very Dwight-centric, so I love it. A little bit of a spoiler for what's to come, but for me, I think a lot of my favourite episodes, maybe all of them of fashion, a lot of the main bulk of the story and what's going on kind of takes place outside of the office environment itself. And I don't know if you'll find that with yours. I suppose The Lover, I think that was mainly taking place within...
Yeah, I'm looking at my list, pretty much. Yeah, they're pretty much all outside the office.
Yeah.
So
I love that saying. I love it. It's kind of claustrophobic, but it's, in a funny way, it replicated that kind of closed-in, sort of frustrating work experience that the UK office really did so well previously when that started in, 99, 2000. Dwights Speech, fantastic episode for me. That's my number 5.
I majored in public speaking in college.
You did?
Mm-hmm. And the first thing that they teach you is that you've got to be true to yourself. And you are all about authority.
Yes, I am.
The great speakers throughout history were not joke tellers. They were people of passion. So if you want to do well today, you got to do what they did.
Which is?
You've got to wave your arms and you've got to pound your fists many times.
Tarty, what's your number 4?
Number 4, I've gone for season 2, episode 12, and you've touched on it slightly a minute ago, the injury. So,
yeah.
Obviously with the concussion, but obviously the main standout of it, this is Michael's episode. Where Michael, I'm laughing. He burns his foot in a George Foreman grill because he likes to make himself bacon at the end of his bed for breakfast.
Yeah.
Even just saying it. I mean, if people can't like The Office and they can't find that setup funny, then they may turn this video off now because it's going to get worse than that. It's just the fact that even though Dwight has clearly got the wrong recruit, it's like when they go to the hospital and there's the form, and Michael starts filling the form out as if, why are you here? And he starts writing it out because he's bought something.
Yeah, it's peak Michael, really, isn't it?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, it's like when they're actually on the way to the hospital and he runs down the car and he just shouts shotgun. It's like the man. I just think it's just an amazing episode. I just think it all sets up for Michael and this whole injury, and it just. I mean, I've wrote what when he goes to the toilet and then he asks someone to bring him a wet towel. It's like, nobody wants to do it, and then you hear him fall over. Oh, he's put about disabled icons and he's wrote something about big AIDS as well. I'm trying to think. I can't exactly remember the context of it now because my notes are so scribbled. This episode it's just Michael's episode, and he throughout constantly. It just all comes back to the George Foreman villain.
It is a great one. This is one, I think, for me, if I was doing a top 10, I think this would be sort of like 6 or 7, really. And, you know, maybe if you'd asked me in a week or 2 weeks or whatever, my order will have changed and it might have made top 5. They're all great. I mean, this is it. Picking 5 favourite episodes from a show that's not got, in my opinion, a bad episode. I mean, it's difficult, really. I mean, I could completely change my mind on a lot of these, like in a day, a week or whatever, but yeah, the injury, just that concussion, and I won't go on about it again because I've already mentioned it, but I do like the dynamic between Dwight and Pam in that episode. I think that's quite sweet, really. It's one of those classic sort of Michael and Dwight episodes where Dwight's main ambition really is just to be Michael's best friend and his number 2 and his assistant. And Michael is just constantly irritated by Dwight, but Michael himself doesn't realise just quite how irritating he is. That's a great choice, that, yeah. The injury, fantastic episode.
Oh, God!
Hey, whoa, Michael.
Oh, God!
It's okay, it's Jim. Just say again really loudly what happened.
Okay, I burned my foot very badly on my Foreman grill, and I now need someone to come and bring me into work.
You burned your foot on a Foreman grill.
My number 4 is from season 5, episode 22, Dream Team.
Okay.
It was a little bit of a toss-up, really, because I also really love the episode that comes right after, Michael Scott Paper Company. I even love the way they've sort of altered the opening titles of that, like it's sort of going to be a documentary or a mockumentary on the Michael Scott Paper Company rather than Dunder Mifflin Scranton. A few notes that I've made about Idris Elba. He first came in the show, was it the previous or a couple of episodes previous? He played Charles Minor. He took what would have been Jan and maybe Ryan's old job at corporate, I think, or maybe slightly rebadged, I don't know. Michael Scott and Pam Beasley working from Michael's condo. Really silly line that without context makes no sense, but always makes me laugh when Michael and Pam are having breakfast and Michael's obviously getting kind of panicky and Pam's wrestling away the sort of big bowl of eggs and spills it, and then Michael just says, "I've got egg on my Crocs." The way he delivers it and just the scene, all this mess, just always makes me laugh, that line. One of my favourite things about this episode, such a minor character, but I don't know why, I just loved him, but it was a return for Vikram. I liked him in the episode, that was the season 4 one, weren't it, where Michael was working 2 jobs and he was at the call centre sort of late at night. And that was the same episode he declared bankruptcy, I think, weren't it?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, just in case like either of us are talking about that later, I won't go on too much about it, but Vikram is this sort of like brilliant seller, this brilliant guy, someone quite sort of high professional in his native India. And just even though he wasn't really on much in either episode, I don't know, I just kind of liked him coming in and just kind of being sort of really focused and not being kind of funny like the other characters are, but just being like, oh, these are prime selling hours, Michael. And I don't know, that to me was just really funny. And then when Vikram has second thoughts about joining the Michael Scott Paper Company, he just gets pretty much booted out the car straight away. I remember seeing that episode for the very first time. I thought, oh, Vikram's back. Oh, great. And of course, it was Ryan had returned as well. I believe, if my research is correct, I think BJ Novak had some time off from The Office because he was filming, I think it might have been Inglourious Bastards, the movie, which I've never seen, but I think he had a fairly big role in that, and he had to take some time off. And then he came back and he claimed that he'd been to Thailand, and his hair was all bleach blonde. And then we found out few episodes down the line that he'd just been to Florida or somewhere like that. The soccer match, or football as we would call it, it's an interesting one because normally Jim Halpert, he's the guy who everyone likes in the office, be it, you know, like his boss or his co-workers, but he just can't get Charles Minor to like him at all, can he? And he's resorting to kind of, you know, pretending, oh yeah, I love soccer. He kicks the ball in, whose face is it? It was either Phyllis or Meredith who got a soccer ball in the face, weren't it?
I'm trying to think now, was it Phyllis?
I think so. I just love this episode because there again, a lot of it is taking place outside the office. I think it's this one at the very end. We see Michael kind of get a little bit of a win after him and Pam are trying to motivate one another. Oh, we're doing the right thing. Oh, are we? No, you know, it's flip-flopping. And then at the end, it's like Michael's got an office. It's not where he'd want it. Once the Michael Scott Paper Company episode, which, like I say, it was a very close call. I in a way, I kind of wish I could have picked them both, really, as they sort of joined together really well. It's almost like a two-parter for me, but we know that the Michael Scott Paper Company office moves from Michael's condo to the, I don't know, was it like a converted shower room or something at the in the Slough Avenue building.
Old lady, yeah, it was awful, wasn't it?
I really like the interactions between Michael and Pam. I like that Ryan, I don't know, Ryan was never a character that I was massively fond of, but I enjoyed seeing him come back, and he was working at the bowling alley, and he got kind of this laissez-faire attitude. So if any French people who might be watching, your language there.
You've got a big French audience then.
But I do kind of love the whole Michael Scott Paper Company arc, to be honest. And that's just sort of the pinnacle of it for me, that Dream Team episode. I don't know if you'd agree with that or not, mate. But
no, I would 100%. Yeah, the Michael Scott Paper Company, I thought that worked really well when they did that. I thought it was a good story arc. It's like what you said, where we've both kind of touched on the fact with a lot of it being out of the office. And I think where the British one finished after a couple of seasons, and that was the right thing to do because they kept it primarily in the office. I think they had to do this to make this show grow, and I think it definitely helped.
Yeah.
Like you said, with the Michael Scott Paper Company, it just helped a lot. Whereas, I know where I've said before, with the sports management company, I didn't like that so much, but with this, with the Michael Scott Paper Company, I thought that was, it was a really good little subplot over that season. It worked really well.
Yeah. I mean, I get the whole sports management thing and having to be in Philadelphia because it's putting that strain on Pam and Jim's marriage. I totally get that. I like how all the Michael Scott Paper Company stuff, it was happening just, you know, under the nose of Dunder Mifflin Scranton. And I think it was the previous episode, and I apologise that I can't remember the episode name offhand, but I love the rubbish ways Michael is trying to get people to defect from Dunder Mifflin to his company. And then at the end, after he's been kicked out by Charles, he then sort of sneaks back in, sort of sliding along the floor and tugging at people's chairs and legs and things. Wonderful stuff, you know. Steve Carell, obviously, an absolute superstar.
Michael, stop for a
No, I'm
second.
whipping him.
No, I know you are. Just let me have.
Please,
Oh,
just give me.
Fine. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
I can't do this. This is pathetic, isn't it? I am such an idiot. I gave up the only job I ever loved to do this? I have egg in my Crocs.
What's your number 3, mate?
Number 3, season 2, episode 1. I've gone with the Dundies. I love the Dundies. Absolutely love the Dundies. I think it's one of the. I wouldn't say one. It's the episode where I really felt I was watching a different show than the UK Office. I just thought it was just so. Oh, I'm trying to touch it. I wrote. This is the first one I wrote down the notes for because I knew it was in my top 5. I weren't sure where it was going to be, but I knew it was in my top 5. But the fact that Phyllis just gets an award for bushiest people is always going to be a massive standout. But I also think it's the episode where it really showed, as much as Michael is annoying and can be a pain, that the rest of the office, they don't just tolerate him. They actually they do have affection for him, and they show that. I mean, when Pam is a little bit pissed up, I can say that because it's on your channel, not mine. Where but when she kind of like tries to bring it back over after the lads at the bar had a go at Michael and just told him it basically was shut up, and she kind of brought him back up. And I love that she's done that, but there's a bit just after that where she also says, and Dwight as well on the deck, and Dwight just like gets up like so. If you watch it back, it's a moment that you could blink and miss it, but honestly, it's almost like a little bit in that episode I look forward to is just Dwight's reaction. He just kind of like stands and it's like really so excited that he's been like touched upon as well. But it's not necessarily loads of laugh points in it, it's more what that episode means to me personally, if that makes sense. It's kind of like that's where I was engaged, and it's like, okay, that was brilliant. This is its own thing. This is working really
exactly well. Yeah, it's exactly how I feel about that episode. Yeah,
I had to have it, although it might not be the funniest episode. It's got some decent moments. I mean, I think to be fair, Pam plays drunk really well in that episode as well.
Yeah,
and the dynamic over. I mean, it's a comedy show, and kind of sometimes they can be a bit. But the acting between Jim and Pam throughout the seasons, I think it's done so well. I think they were two. I mean, you'll never know who else could have done it, but I just think that John Krasinski especially is just so good. His looks to camera, his slight manner of actions, and this is kind of one where, obviously, with Pam coming back, you can see that little. It doesn't really show massively, but that bit of excitement that she's back, and then obviously that little bit of affection she shows to him. It's a weird one because it's probably the one I've wrote the least notes down for. If I was to say to somebody watching The Office, give it a go, this would be the episode. I'd say, look, this is an episode. Forget the UK. Just watch this.
That's I've done when people have said, "Oh, you like The Office?" I've never bothered. I've heard the first season were crap. I've said, start with season 2, episode 1, the Dundies. You know, if you want, personally, I wouldn't ignore it because I think there's good and great moments in season 1.
Definitely.
But I've said to people, all right, ignore season 1, just start with the Dundies. Because it's the perfect first episode for any season, really. Totally agree, 110%. The Dundies is a magnificent episode. I'm not going to say, oh, that's a crap choice you've made, because all these episodes, no matter what you've picked, no matter what I've picked, like I say, there isn't but there's some that maybe verge on above average at times, and there's maybe some of the subplots. And I think later on I'm going to get to a subplot that, even though it's in one of my favourite episodes, that I thought, it was a little bit poor, but I'll get onto that later. Brilliant choice.
You said we could bring our families.
I did, and why didn't you, Stanley?
I did. My wife's name is Terry.
Well, I'm looking forward to meeting Terry.
It's this person whose hand I'm holding, Michael.
Oh, yeah.
Shut it.
My number 3 is episode 2 in season 3. I think season 3 is a really strong season overall. The Convention. There again, it's one where the bulk is like completely away from The Office. It's the first episode of this season where Jim gets to interact with Michael and Dwight personally following his transfer from Scranton Stamford because he told Pam his feelings at the end of season 2 on casino nights where Michael was going to drop a deuce on everyone, which is a lot. I know that's a completely different episode, but that's a line that always, me having sort of toilet humour in my bones, then that was a line that was always going to tickle me, and I laugh like a drain every time I hear that. Jim had obviously, between the end of season 2 and the start of the 3rd one, he transferred to Stamford. He had a broken heart. For me, it was nice to get this triumvirate of Michael Scott, Dwight Schrute, and Jim Halpert all back in the same room again. And, you know, I remember watching that series, and I love season 3, and a lot of the Stamford stuff I'm quite fond of as well, but I was kind of waiting, I want all these people to be back together in Scranton, and this was sort of like an early Jim's back with them a little bit, but there was that sort of jealousy from Michael that Jim had got a new boss. And please tell me that I've written his name down, and because I've forgotten it. Oh, what's his name? The Stamford boss. I should know. I'll flash it up on screen somewhere. Michael thinks wrongly that it's him being a crap boss and a crap friend and whatever that was the reason that Jim took this transfer. And then Jim says to him later on in the episode, no, you're a great boss. There's some sincerity, but he's mainly sort of saying that to sort of make Michael feel better because he can see how much Michael is down. But it's still a nice sort of tender moment there, I think. I
don't know if that's because I don't know that this will be, but they've also got that amazing scene when Michael's last episode between Jim and and I think that is a touch again on John Krasinski and Steve Carell's. That is just an amazing, you know, the emotion between them two and how.
I sort of get kind of goosebumpy thinking about that scene, and you know, 1 or 2 others.
So the moment, this is the whole thing with the show where it's not just a slapstick comedy. There's some really good, like what you just touched on, some really nice, touching moments that you can kind of. That's why you get invested in the characters, because they bring it back to being There's some nonsense in there, don't get me wrong, especially with Dwight. There's a lot of believable human moments between the characters that keep you kind of invested and wanting to see them get the best out of life, kind of thing. I didn't think that'd be in your top 5 episodes. Michael's last episode. If it is, then I'll probably have kiboshed you a little bit. But
we'll see.
I just thought it was worth touching on that because
absolutely, These sort of, you know, real sort of, you know, personal relationship moments. Obviously, once you get to somewhere like season 7, if you've been with them from the start, you know, you feel like you really know these characters. They feel like your friends. You know, you've just watched them so often. The emotion in that scene that you're referring to, outstandingly written and outstandingly acted by Krasinski and Carell. Going back to the convention, funnily enough, when I was talking about poor subplots, this is the subplot that I thought wasn't very good, but it didn't matter really because the rest of the episode, all the convention stuff and Michael's jealousy, and then him sort of almost nonchalantly saying, we now sell Hammer Mill. You know, he just sort of, you know, made a really good deal with a massive paper company to the surprise of Jan. But the subplot was where Pam, she goes on a double date with Ryan and Kelly, and it's this cartoonist. And I don't know, it didn't really do anything for me, that. And I think they were trying to sort of imply that the cartoonist guy, the illustrator, whatever he was a little bit sleazy. I could have easily lived without all that. I don't think it was very good. I don't think that cartoonist character, even though you can't really flesh a character like that out too much when it's a one-off thing, but I thought it was pretty one-dimensional and not very engaging. But I'm criticising an aspect of something that is my 3rd favourite episode. I'll love all that. 3 words that, and I'm hearing it in my head now, the song, but Girls Gone Wild. Love it. You sort of, the camera's following Jim as he's heading towards Michael's hotel room, and the music's getting loud, and you can hear this techno track, Girls Gone Wild. That's by an act called Captain Ahab, by the way, for Anyone who would, yeah, I actually liked the track. That's the thing. Even and that was the first time I heard it on The Office, and I thought I've got to download that from somewhere. Years ago.
Coming soon.
Oh, I'm trying to throw a party in my hotel room. Oh, no one's really interested. Great stuff. I've not written this down, but it is a fact that I remember. But when I was looking on Wikipedia about this episode, the convention, I don't know if you knew this, but Greg Daniels, the showrunner, he wanted to get Mackenzie Crook, Lucy Davis, and Martin Freeman into this episode to do for cameos, but they were unable for scheduling reasons.
Oh, that would have been a nice touch.
Yeah, it would. I had no idea. I only learnt that just like literally under a week ago when I was reading up and doing a bit of research before watching. That would have been cool, but unfortunately that never happened. See Gareth Keenan again after all this time, that would have been interesting. There's like a very brief cameo from an NFL player. I think his name's Jerome Bettis. He's the guy who Michael tries to invite him to his hotel room party, and he's like, no, you're all right. That was what it was. If you're an American sports fan, you're going to get a lot more out of that cameo than I did. Yeah, I've already mentioned about Michael's big hammer mill deal, that it was like effortless, and that sort of shines a light on maybe how someone who on the face of it is this really incompetent and socially awkward and clumsy guy, but maybe how he became manager, because he is kind of a natural salesman, and he is, despite all the ridiculous things that he says and does, he was genuinely very good at his job, and that's how he somehow rose to this management position that a lot of people think that he's just too incompetent for. Yeah, we sell hammer mill paper now. Yeah. Piece of piss. But yeah, convention, fantastic episode. My number 3.
That is a lot of liquor.
Yeah?
Dartboard.
Well, that's how we do it in Scranton. Or did you forget? Ain't no party like a Scranton party, because the Scranton party don't stop.
Hit me. Shit. Right in the sternum this time, T-baby. Shit, you already know. You already know. You already know. Damn. Shit. This that hustler music. Young Weezy got that motherfucking hustler music. So ride to it, y'all. Vibe to it, y'all. Damn.